Jesus freak here. So, being that I knew I'd be out grabbing groceries today, whether, having someone bring me or just heading out myself, and right now it's the latter. Although the former, afterward is not out of the realm of possibility. You gotta do what you gotta do. Last night I had to get rid of a few science projects, so to speak. Can't have stuff turning into science projects in the fridge. Need the room for, actual food. It's like, sometimes I just don't have the motivation to fix anything. So, then again, a number of the things I buy, they'll last a decent amount of time in the fridge. Not everything I buy is so highly perishable that it'll go before the end of the month. Now, if I get a kielbasa or something, and I forget about it, and it gets buried behind other stuff, or I got an andouille, looks just like a kielbasa, but it's got more bite. And it gets buried behind my eggs or something like that. Or because my first focus when I'm in the fridge is get in, get out, keep the door shut. It leads to things being horribly disorganized. And I need to go every so often, and reorganize everything. So that's what I've had to do. And some things accumulate more than others. Sometimes they'll accumulate so bad. I have something in there that expired 2 years ago, and because it got buried behind something, it's still there. It's still unopened. Of course, we're talking stuff that's not quite as perishable. But I have had, produce go bad in the fridge because I just haven't used it for stuff. And it's usually stuff I buy over and over and over because I intend to use it over and over and over, and I just never get to it. Because honestly, I don't always have the motivation to do heavy cooking. And it could be a number of reasons. It could be, I don't have the spoons. I'm just physically exhausted or mentally exhausted and don't feel up to it. Another is, we've been having some, what do you expect in August for the weather not to be hellacious? This was a mild August. We had a lot of days up in the 80s. So, I can't deal with that kind of weather. My air conditioner only does so much work. We've been having relatively cool days. 66 Fahrenheit right now. That's a lot more tolerable than what I've been dealing with. dealing with. This is, this is get out and take a walk with it. This is the weather I actually want to be outside. I actually want to have the windows open. As opposed to, constantly rubbing my face and then, my eyes getting irritated from the salt in my sweat. I'll try to be a little more, diversify my things a little bit. It's getting cooler. I'll be cooking more. I've been relying, a lot more on junk food simply because it doesn't require a lot of effort. Convenience food. Crack a can of SpaghettiOs. Dash up a packet of ramen. It ain't good food, but you're not standing in the kitchen for a long period of time. You're back where, where the climate control is actually working, because my air conditioner only covers one room. So you gotta play the hand you're dealt. I like to think I'm better than that at that than a lot of people, because that's how I grew up and I learned to deal with that. A lot of people now, they're in hock up to their eyeballs. Sometimes it's like, do you really need all this? Do you really need to keep up with the Joneses? I mean, it's not like I'm not speaking from a position of privilege. Being that, with disability checks, I don't have to work like most people do. Still, I'm living on, just over $1,000 a month. Make that, roughly $1,300 once you're factoring in stuff like food stamps. But then again, also, I'm not paying as much in rent. Where a lot of people might be paying twice as much for their apartment or their house if they can afford that. In fact, we're trying to get me in a situation where I don't have to even pay that much. And honestly, that'll be putting me back into, even more of a position of privilege, because some of that difference from my current rent to my rent under an income-based system, and the difference would be stuff that I could spend on hiring help, because I can keep the place up by myself, and I thought I could. I've talked about this before. at least I can do the basics. Keep myself up more or less. Even that's more than some people would say. Like I've said this before, if it weren't for the grace of God, I've come close to death more than once. And wouldn't surprise me if I have another run-in. I'm not supposed to be around still. And that I am is a miracle. That I take things for what they are. Every day I'm still around is a bonus. Jesus freak out.